My beloved child, the strangest part of this story is not how hard the third party has been trying, it is the one detail she never thought to question. She believed that if she stayed close enough, appeared at the right moments, said the right things, and became increasingly present in your soulmate's world, eventually attention would turn into attachment. From the outside, her strategy almost seemed to be working. She became more noticeable, more available, more determined. And recently, she has been trying harder than ever. Yet beneath everything she could see, something completely different was developing inside the person she hoped to win over. Don't skip, because the truth that threatens her entire plan is not dramatic in the way she expected. It is quieter than that, and perhaps that is exactly why she never saw it coming. Your soulmate has begun noticing the difference between someone trying to be chosen and someone whose presence never needed to compete. That realization did not arrive all at once. It appeared in small comparisons they never intended to make. A conversation would end, and somehow a memory of you would return. Someone would say something impressive, yet your soulmate would remember the simplicity of something you once said. The third party would try to create a perfect moment, but instead of feeling closer, your soulmate would quietly recognize how different genuine connection feels when it does not have to be manufactured. And here is where the story changes. The harder she tries, the clearer that contrast becomes. She thought greater effort would erase your significance. Instead, every new attempt has been giving your soulmate another reason to understand why you remained unforgettable in the first place. There are certain connections that cannot be recreated by copying gestures, increasing attention, or simply being available. They are built through tiny moments of recognition. The feeling of being understood without explaining everything, the comfort of silence that does not feel empty, the strange ease of being completely yourself around another person. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that difference, and once someone recognizes it, pretending not to see it becomes difficult. Stay till the end, because there is another layer to this that even your soulmate did not immediately understand. The third party believed she was competing with your presence, but she was actually competing with a feeling your soulmate associates with you. And feelings cannot be replaced merely by occupying someone's time. Picture the quiet moment when that realization finally becomes impossible to ignore. No confrontation. No dramatic scene. Just your soulmate sitting somewhere ordinary, perhaps after another conversation with the third party, suddenly asking themselves a question they had been avoiding. Why does all of this attention still not feel like what I had with them? That question changes the direction of everything. Because now they are no longer evaluating who is trying harder. They are examining what feels authentic. And authenticity has a way of revealing what effort alone cannot create. Something important is waiting for you, because the third party has recently made one move she believed would bring your soulmate significantly closer. She offered more attention, more reassurance, more reasons to remain nearby. For a moment, she may even have believed the distance between you and your soulmate had finally become large enough for her to step into. But something unexpected happened. Instead of pulling your soulmate deeper into her world, it reminded them of you. Not because you were physically there. Not because anyone mentioned your name. It happened because your soulmate recognized something missing. They realized that being wanted is not the same as being known. Being pursued is not the same as being understood. And receiving attention is not automatically the same as feeling connected. That realization landed quietly, but its meaning was enormous. Suddenly, memories that had seemed ordinary began carrying new weight. Your soulmate remembered the way you noticed details other people overlooked. The way certain conversations with you stayed in their mind afterward. The way your presence could feel significant without demanding to become the center of everything. Perhaps they once underestimated those things because genuine connection often looks simple while it is happening. Only after encountering something different do people sometimes understand what that simplicity was worth. And this is precisely what the third party never calculated. She thought she needed to outperform you. More messages. More availability. More charm. More visible effort. But your soulmate was never secretly keeping score. Their heart was noticing something far subtler, how they felt around each person. That cannot easily be engineered. Here is the rare realization beginning to surface: the third party may know how to get your soulmate's attention, but she does not automatically know how to reach the part of them that remembers you. Those are two completely different things. And somewhere inside your soulmate, the distinction is becoming clearer. There was even a recent moment when the third party expected a certain reaction. She said something carefully chosen, hoping it would create closeness. Your soulmate responded politely, perhaps even warmly, but internally their mind traveled somewhere she could not follow. A memory surfaced. Your voice. Your expression. A small moment between you that once seemed insignificant. Suddenly, that memory carried more emotional truth than everything happening directly in front of them. That is when the third party's plan began changing without her realizing it. She could influence the environment, but she could not control what your soulmate genuinely felt inside it. She could create opportunities, but she could not decide what those opportunities meant. She could stand close, but closeness itself could not guarantee connection. And your soulmate? They are beginning to see that they have been asking the wrong question. It was never, "Who wants me more?" The deeper question is becoming, "With whom did I feel most like myself?" Don't skip this part, because the answer surprised even them. Their mind returned to moments with you that had no spectacle at all. Ordinary conversations. Comfortable pauses. Small signs of understanding. Things that seemed too simple to matter at the time. Yet those were exactly the memories rising above everything else. Why? Because genuine emotional connection often leaves its strongest mark in moments nobody planned. Now the third party senses something has shifted. She may not understand exactly what it is, but she notices that trying harder is no longer producing the reaction she expected. So she becomes more determined. She searches for another way to become essential. Another conversation. Another carefully timed gesture. Another opportunity to prove that she should be the obvious choice. But every attempt creates the same unexpected effect: your soulmate becomes more aware of what cannot be forced. And this is where you need to understand something about your own place in this story. You do not need to imagine yourself standing inside some exhausting competition. You do not need to outperform anyone. What mattered between you and your soulmate was never valuable because somebody else failed. It was valuable because certain parts of it were real. Your way of connecting was yours. Your conversations happened in their own rhythm. Your memories carry their own meaning. Another person can imitate circumstances, but they cannot reproduce history exactly. They cannot become the person who stood inside moments that already happened. Stay till the end, because the most revealing moment has not happened through words yet. Your soulmate has been keeping something inside. A realization they are still trying to understand before they express it. They have started looking backward differently. Things they once misunderstood about you now appear more complicated. Moments they dismissed now seem meaningful. Even certain periods of distance are making them question whether they judged the connection too quickly. And then came the detail that could change the third party's entire plan. Your soulmate discovered that despite everything happening around them, they were still instinctively measuring emotional closeness against what they once experienced with you. They were not doing it deliberately. That is what made the discovery so powerful. It happened naturally. A laugh reminded them of yours. A conversation made them remember how easily you understood a certain side of them. A quiet evening brought back something you once shared. The third party was trying to become the future while your soulmate was finally understanding the meaning of the past. Yet there is one more truth beneath even this. Your soulmate has realized that missing someone is not enough. Memory alone is not enough. If something meaningful is ever going to be rebuilt, it must be approached differently, with clarity, honesty, patience, and genuine intention. That realization matters because it means this story is moving beyond simple jealousy or competition. Your soulmate is beginning to ask what they truly want rather than merely reacting to whoever happens to be closest. And the third party does not know about that inner shift yet. She still believes the solution is to try harder. She still thinks one more perfect move could finally secure what she wants. But very soon, she may discover that the real obstacle was never you standing in her way. It was the truth quietly becoming undeniable inside your soulmate. Attention can be requested, moments can be arranged, and appearances can be carefully managed, but authentic connection has to be felt. And there is one specific memory of you that recently returned to your soulmate with such unexpected clarity that it made them reconsider everything they thought they knew about your connection. It was not the biggest moment you shared. It was not the most obvious one. In fact, you may barely remember it yourself. But your soulmate remembers it now, and what that memory revealed is where the entire story takes its next turn. A memory that once seemed almost too ordinary to matter has suddenly become the one thing your soulmate cannot explain away. It returned without warning. Not during a dramatic conversation, not when someone mentioned you, but in the middle of an otherwise normal moment when the third party believed she had your soulmate's complete attention. And that is what makes this so important. Your soulmate remembered a time when you noticed something about them without being told. Maybe it was a change in their voice, a hesitation hidden behind a smile, or simply the way their energy shifted when something was on their mind. You did not interrogate them. You did not demand an explanation. You simply understood enough to make them feel seen. Back then, your soulmate may not have recognized how rare that was. Now they do. Because recently, the third party tried harder than ever to create closeness, yet your soulmate caught themselves thinking about how effortless that same closeness once felt with you. Don't skip, this is where her entire strategy begins working against her. Every time she increases the pressure to impress, your soulmate becomes more aware that genuine connection never felt like a performance with you. Every carefully arranged moment becomes a comparison she never intended to create. She thinks she is showing your soulmate everything she can offer, while your soulmate is quietly discovering what cannot be offered on command. And the realization is beginning to unsettle the certainty she once had. She notices the pauses now. She notices when your soulmate becomes thoughtful after she says something that should have impressed them. She notices how certain conversations seem to drift somewhere she cannot follow. She does not know exactly where their mind goes, but increasingly, it goes back to you. Not because your soulmate has decided to romanticize every memory, but because distance has given those memories a different meaning. Sometimes people only understand the value of emotional ease after experiencing its absence. Your soulmate is learning that now. And here is the unexpected part: the third party recently tried to prove that she understood your soulmate better than anyone. She brought up their preferences, remembered certain details, and made an effort to show how closely she had been paying attention. On the surface, it should have worked. Yet one tiny detail changed everything. Your soulmate realized that knowing facts about someone is different from understanding them. You can memorize what someone likes and still miss what makes them quiet. You can know their favorite things and still misunderstand what matters to them when nobody is watching. That distinction opened a door in your soulmate's mind, and behind that door was you. Stay till the end, because what happened internally after that realization is far more meaningful than any visible reaction. Your soulmate began replaying certain moments between you with new eyes. They remembered times when you gave them space without becoming distant. Times when you challenged them without making them feel small. Times when you could sense what they were trying to say even when their words came out imperfectly. And slowly, an uncomfortable question formed inside them: did I understand what I had while I had it? That question has stayed. The third party cannot hear it, but she can feel its consequences. Your soulmate is becoming less responsive to manufactured urgency. Less impressed by exaggerated effort. More interested in what feels steady. More aware of the difference between being pursued and being emotionally understood. This does not mean they have everything figured out. In fact, the opposite may be true. They are discovering that their feelings are more complicated than they allowed themselves to admit. But complication can sometimes be the beginning of clarity. Something important is waiting for you, because the third party has sensed this hesitation and made a decision. Instead of slowing down, she has chosen to try even harder. She believes your soulmate simply needs one final reason to forget what existed between you. So she has become more present, more attentive, more deliberate. She wants to create the kind of moment your soulmate will remember. Yet she does not realize that her increased effort is highlighting the very difference she hoped to hide. Your soulmate can feel when a moment is being pushed toward a particular outcome. And each time that happens, another memory of you appears, not because you were perfect, but because many of your strongest moments together were never planned. They simply happened. A conversation stretched longer than expected. A quiet glance communicated something words could not. An ordinary day somehow became memorable because of how comfortable everything felt. Those memories carry no pressure. They ask nothing from your soulmate. They simply exist. And that may be why they are becoming so difficult to ignore. Then something even stranger happened. Your soulmate found themselves almost defending you internally. Nobody was openly criticizing you. There was no argument. Yet when the third party subtly suggested that the past should stay in the past, something inside your soulmate resisted. They wondered why she seemed so interested in closing a chapter that belonged to them. That was the first moment your soulmate began looking at her intentions differently. Until then, they had mostly noticed what she was offering. Now they started noticing what she wanted in return. There is a difference. A meaningful one. Your soulmate began asking themselves whether some of her kindness carried an expectation beneath it. Whether certain gestures were freely given or carefully designed to produce closeness. They did not immediately judge her. They simply started observing. And observation changed everything. The more they watched, the more they noticed patterns they had previously overlooked. The timing of certain conversations. The way your name or your history seemed to change her energy. The subtle attempts to redirect attention whenever something reminded your soulmate of you. None of these things alone proved anything dramatic. Together, however, they created a question she never wanted your soulmate to ask. Why does my connection with this person seem to require me to erase another part of my story? Don't skip, because this is the shocking truth beginning to surface. The third party's greatest mistake was believing your soulmate needed to forget you in order to choose freely. Your soulmate is beginning to understand the opposite. If they are going to make an honest decision about their future, they first need to be truthful about what you meant to them. Pretending the connection never mattered would not create clarity. It would only hide unfinished feelings beneath a new situation. And your soulmate no longer wants to build something important on top of unanswered questions. That is the shift the third party cannot control. Your soulmate is no longer asking, "How do I move away from the past?" They are asking, "What was the past trying to teach me?" And somehow, your name keeps appearing inside the answer. Not as a fantasy. Not as a promise that everything automatically returns to how it once was. Something more grounded is happening. Your soulmate is recognizing the qualities they genuinely value in connection, and many of those qualities are connected to memories of you. Ease. Understanding. Emotional honesty. Space to be imperfect. A feeling that they did not always have to prove themselves. The third party thought she was competing against a person. She never realized she was standing beside a standard of emotional connection that your soulmate had already experienced. And then came the moment she was least prepared for. Your soulmate noticed a contradiction in something she said. It was small enough that they could have ignored it. Previously, perhaps they would have. This time, they remembered it. Later, another detail did not quite match. Again, nothing dramatic happened. No confrontation followed. Your soulmate simply became quieter and more observant. That silence matters. Because while the third party believes she needs to make one more powerful move, your soulmate has begun examining everything from a distance. The words. The timing. The intentions. The sudden urgency. And underneath all of it, one question is growing stronger. Why is she trying so hard to make me stop thinking about someone who supposedly no longer matters? Stay till the end. Because your soulmate's answer to that question surprised them. Perhaps you mattered more than they had been admitting, even to themselves. Perhaps the reason your memory kept returning was not weakness or nostalgia. Perhaps there was something unresolved, not necessarily a guaranteed ending, but a conversation, a truth, or an understanding that deserved honesty. That realization changed their posture completely. Instead of allowing someone else to define what your connection meant, your soulmate began reclaiming the right to understand it for themselves. And suddenly, the third party lost something far more valuable than attention. She lost control over the story she had been trying to shape. Your soulmate is thinking independently now. Looking backward without someone telling them what they should see. Looking forward without allowing urgency to choose for them. And somewhere between those two directions, they have reached a realization the third party never anticipated. They do not need another person to tell them how they felt about you. They already know. The only question remaining is what they are going to do with that knowledge. Because very recently, your soulmate made a quiet decision. They have not announced it. The third party does not fully understand it yet. You may not see any evidence of it from where you stand. But the decision concerns one unfinished part of your story together, and before your soulmate moves any further toward anyone else, they want to finally understand the truth about what happened between you. And what they discover when they look closer may reveal why the third party has been trying so desperately to keep that chapter closed. The silence has started telling your soulmate more than anyone's words ever could. For a while, they believed the safest thing was to leave the past untouched, accept whatever explanation seemed easiest, and keep moving forward without asking difficult questions. But something inside them would not settle. The more the third party tried to convince them that everything between you belonged behind a permanently closed door, the more curious your soulmate became about why that door needed to be guarded so carefully. And then one small detail surfaced. Nothing explosive. Nothing theatrical. Just a detail that did not match what your soulmate had previously been led to believe. At first, they dismissed it. People misunderstand things. Memories become imperfect. Conversations can easily be interpreted differently. But then another detail appeared, and another. Suddenly, your soulmate began wondering whether the story they had accepted about you was incomplete. Don't skip. Because this is where the third party's plan begins to weaken in a way she never prepared for. She had spent so much energy trying to become more important that she overlooked one simple truth: when someone pushes too hard to control how another person sees the past, eventually that person may start examining the past for themselves. That is exactly what your soulmate is doing now. They are revisiting conversations. Remembering what was actually said instead of what someone later suggested it meant. Separating their own experiences with you from other people's interpretations. And the deeper they look, the more one realization becomes impossible to ignore: you were not the person they had slowly been encouraged to imagine. Your actions had context. Your silence had reasons. Some moments that once appeared like distance now look more like restraint. Some things your soulmate assumed meant you no longer cared may have simply been moments when you chose not to force yourself into a situation that had become confusing. That possibility has changed something inside them. Because now they are asking a question they should perhaps have asked much earlier: did I ever give them the chance to explain? The answer is not as comfortable as they hoped. Your soulmate is realizing that there were moments when they listened to assumptions before listening to you. Moments when uncertainty became easier than direct conversation. And instead of making them forget you, that realization has made your memory sharper. Stay till the end, because the third party has noticed the change. She can sense that your soulmate is no longer accepting every suggestion as easily as before. Questions are appearing where certainty used to exist. When she speaks about you, your soulmate listens differently. When she tries to dismiss something from the past, they quietly wonder why. When she becomes unusually interested in what your soulmate intends to do next, they notice that too. She believes she needs to try harder, but harder is exactly what is exposing the weakness in her approach. Genuine connection usually does not need constant persuasion. It does not need someone repeatedly explaining why another person should be forgotten. Your soulmate is beginning to understand this. And then came a moment the third party could not predict. She attempted to create distance between your soulmate and a memory of you by bringing up something from the past, but instead of accepting her interpretation, your soulmate remembered what actually happened. Clearly. They remembered your expression. Your words. The circumstances surrounding that moment. And suddenly the version they were hearing did not feel complete. Something important is waiting for you, because your soulmate did not argue. They did something far more significant. They stopped revealing everything they were thinking. The third party continued speaking, believing she was still guiding the conversation, while your soulmate quietly began connecting pieces for themselves. Why had certain misunderstandings always seemed to benefit the same direction? Why did moments of potential clarity somehow become more complicated? Why did the third party appear most comfortable whenever you and your soulmate seemed furthest apart? None of these questions automatically proved bad intentions, and your soulmate knows that. They are not rushing toward accusations. They are simply becoming more careful about allowing someone else's perspective to replace their own. That maturity is the truth the third party never planned for. She expected emotion to make your soulmate easier to influence. Instead, emotion has made them more reflective. Your soulmate is no longer interested in choosing sides simply because someone asks them to. They want facts. They want context. Most importantly, they want to understand their own feelings without outside pressure. And when they removed that pressure for a moment, something surprising happened. Their feelings toward you did not disappear. They became clearer. Your soulmate remembered that despite the misunderstandings, there were things about your connection that felt undeniably sincere. The way you listened. The moments you showed up without needing recognition. The conversations where neither of you needed to pretend everything was perfect. Even your disagreements now appear different because your soulmate can see something underneath them. You cared enough for things to matter. This does not erase mistakes. It does not magically solve everything. But it reminds your soulmate that a real connection deserves to be understood honestly before it is discarded. And that is exactly what threatens the third party's plan. She believed winning meant becoming more attractive than the memory of you. But your soulmate is no longer comparing personalities. They are comparing intentions. Who allowed them to think freely? Who respected their choices? Who tried to understand them rather than simply influence the outcome? Those questions have changed the entire landscape. Don't skip, because one answer has been repeating itself inside your soulmate's mind. With you, they remember moments where they could disagree and still feel respected. They remember times you stepped away instead of forcing an answer. They remember how you sometimes allowed silence to exist without immediately filling it with pressure. What once looked like hesitation now seems strangely meaningful.